I want to pick up on an interesting few comments in Hegel's phenomenology of spirit or mind, which touches on psychology. And what Hegel's keen to do is to question the way that psychology tends to carve up the mind, to perceive it through particular categories that, when examined, sometimes seem rather arbitrary. So in this section, page 173 in my probably inadequate Dover edition, Hegel says, circumstances, situation, customs, and so on, which show themselves on one side as something given, and on the other as within this specific individuality, reveal merely indeterminate nature of individuality, which is not the point under consideration. If these circumstances, style of thought, customs, the whole state of the world, in short, had not been, then assuredly the individual would not have been what he is. For all the elements that find a place in this state of the world constitute this universal substance. And this ties into something that's become something of a fascination of mine, of how different times and places carve up the psyche in different ways for different purposes. Alfred Hirschman's famous book, The Passions and the Interests, demonstrates how in the early modern era, the different balance of passions, of emotions, of interests were perceived in new ways to try and justify the growth of a market society, of capitalism, to try and justify the pursuit of profit as a sort of interest that would ameliorate the more violent passions, that could bring a more peaceable outcome for society overall. It's a very good short book, it's well worth your time, and it illustrates this problem that thinkers of the early modern period had in trying to chop our feelings up into different categories with different tables. But someone like Frederick Jameson, in his excellent Allegory and Ideology, has shown that this can be expanded to consider different tables of emotions across different cultures, from the Chinese to Indian thought, or within Catholic Europe, the seven virtues, the seven deadly sins, could be seen as a particular ideological way of framing our emotions, of framing how we feel. And now, in this time, in what we might call a therapeutic culture, post-Freud, post-Jung, we are apt to see, to understand our emotions and feelings in a different framework entirely again. Freud was obviously convinced that the id, the ego, and the superego were real aspects of our psyches. We are obviously maybe more questioning about many of his assumptions, but we are still faced with the problem of, are we understanding ourselves, our inner life, in ways that have been given to us, ways that aren't neutral, that are not fully within our grasp or even at all? What does that mean for how we understand ourselves? What purpose does that serve within this kind of society as a whole? And as our society rapidly changes, as our world enters maybe a new phase, how will our feelings, our understanding of our feelings, change with it? It's both dizzying to think about, but also maybe exciting. Maybe many of the neuroses that we face so far could have surprising solutions in the times to come. That would be a hopeful way of looking at it. But regardless, I think Hegel's emphasis here that we can't just focus on the individual We can't assume there's been these static categories of the mind, of consciousness that persisted throughout history. It's crucial to an understanding of history, to looking back and seeing how different times shaped people in different ways, and ultimately to understanding ourselves.